think the feedback from the construction companies was that everybody's looking at their strategy period 2 to 5 years ahead. And they wanted universities to kind of develop a longer term vision and start developing some kind of roadmap for development for longer term. And that was the initial interest of the companies.
I think partly the same as Olli said, that we would get the longer perspective, but then also we saw that through the consortium we could actually get knowledge, or it would generate knowledge that we wouldn't otherwise get. The other one is of course the setup of the consortium. It's quite a diverse thing. There's different point of views and different angles that we get, especially from the academic side. Maybe a third is the students, because they are our future. So it's a good way to learn to know or meet the students. And maybe as a fourth, I would lift that as a large player in the industry. So it's we feel it's a little bit our responsibility also to support the academia and make sure the future is bright.
Well, we have members of 2 levels, steering group level and normal level, and they pay an annual fee which is used to fund our students, doctoral students and master students who are doing research for the consortium. Steering group is selecting 3 or 4 research projects every year, and these research projects have workshops where all the consortium participants are joining, and we are collaboratively co-creating ideas related to that topic. For example, now we are investigating tagged production, circular economy, data flow in construction, and how to improve quality systematically in construction. Many of the topics we have investigated for the first time 10 years ago, and now we are seeing action 10 years later, and other topics go immediately into practice. But I would say that we are developing understanding all the time, and understanding what is holding us back in terms of productivity and quality, and then companies decide based on their priorities where to focus their energies. Yeah, I would say tagged production, it's a very simple concept, but it's kind of hard to implement in practice. And it's hard for people who are used to traditional methods to convince themselves to actually try it out. So I would say we are solving a chicken and egg problem by first doing something in a small scale and documenting it very well. And that allows then, gives companies courage to actually start to scale it up. And I remember the first introduction of tagged production to the CEO group, and everybody was saying that this will never work in Finland. But after a couple of successful trials, I would say that everybody in the CEO group is now bought in and says that this is the right way to go. So it's kind of hard to implement anything new in construction, and that's why doing kind of small-scale pilots first and documenting their results well is able to kind of break this resistance to change that is very understandable in a risk-averse industry, where the downside is much bigger than upside.
I think it's a well known. It's very broadly in our case. It's applied, implemented, and improved in that way. Without the research that would be done in a consortium, I don't think we would have figured it out, not least in this time interval. A lot of things. I think the industry has much more learned to work through this kind of ecosystems. It used to be quite often like the work was like one-to-one or point-to-point type of thing, that you have the academia and a company. But now I think that the problems they are complex, and they actually require an ecosystems to go through. So that is for certainly one thing. I also think that we have been much better in leading with data, because now we start to have more facts and ways how we can lead with data. And I also see that a lot of the lean theory that has been quite theoretical has become much more practical, or the industry has understood what it in practice mean. I think the tactile is just one example. We also talk a lot about collaborative contract models and so forth. So I think there's a lot of interesting things that happens or has changed.
I think everybody shares the same kind of problems. And we are not just competing companies, because we have engineering companies and we have logistics companies and software companies. And so we have kind of participants from all parts of the supply chain. And I think companies are learning to collaborate better with their supply chain partners and understanding the business point of view of other parties. So I would say that there's not so much friction between peers on the same level, but it's kind of overall understanding of the big picture, getting everybody's viewpoint, and there everyone can learn together. And we are not sharing company secrets.
Yeah, I think it's very important that it's very clear for everybody from the beginning what the anti-competition law means and what is allowed and not to allow, because then it sort of release the space to everyone knows what to talk. And when it comes to research and knowledge gathering, it's useful for everybody, but at the end of the day, it's the corporate culture that defines actually who's able to scale what.
Everybody will get the same knowledge, but some companies are more effective in using that knowledge to improve their operations, and that's outside of the consortium. It's a little bit handled on consortium level. In the measurement, we are seeing if the whole consortium is advancing, but we are not kind of showing the results of individual companies in those measurements.
Yeah, I think that's a very good clarification there.
Of course, we set up a very ambitious agenda in the beginning, and we already know now that some parts of that agenda will be met. So there are many things in sustainability and energy efficiency that we are already ahead of schedule. But other targets were set high and will not be met, so there will still be work remaining after 2030.
But where I think if we are going to be successful, that productivity target has to go up quite much, and I'm quite optimistic on that thing. The other thing maybe is there was the inspiring in industry or the attractiveness industry. So that's also one that I think if you want to be successful, that needs to also be up.
Well, there are a lot of problems still unsolved, and I think the motivation comes from that we have made progress. So there's kind of a continuous improvement that is visible through the work of this consortium, but there's still a lot of work to do.
Yeah, I think there is this huge opportunity, but you see that there's a huge opportunity that gives motivated. Another thing is actually there's a lot of great people under our industry, and I think that a lot of people inspire me here in the industry. Maybe as a third, I would lift up also personal learning. So as long as you feel that you personally learn something, that sort of motivates as well.